Hello and welcome to the Bohemican Podcast. I'm your host, P. Coleman. Today we are in Bila Hora, White Mountain in English, just outside of Prague for the reenactment, day 2 of this very famous battle that had taken place in November of 1620 between the Catholic League and the Protestant upstarts representing the noblemen here in Bohemia. By the time the battle actually happened, it was more of a skirmish. It was greatly diminished due to several factors, including the weather and poor pay. So when it came down to the battle in November of 1620, it really was a decisive victory for the Catholic League and Ferdinand II. Today we're going to have that reenactment, and one of probably the best reenactments in all of Czech Republic, that it really kind of gets people to come out. So we're going to see it a little bit of that today. So stay with us on the Bohemican Podcast. We have a great show.
The reenactment of the Battle of Bila Hora happens every September, drawing several thousand reenactors and spectators from all across Europe. Carefully coordinated troop movements and pyrotechnics are just part of the overall experience. In historical terms, the 1620 battle happened in early November and marked the beginning of the end of Bohemia's self-rule for the next 300 years. To understand the unrest, we have to go back 2 years earlier to the year 1618. Prague was in upheaval. The Second Prague Defenestration, whereas the Protestants threw out several Catholic representatives of Emperor Ferdinand II out of the Prague castle window, set the wheels in motion to rein in the anti-Catholic movement in Bohemia. It was then that the Winter King, King of Bohemia Frederick V, was named ruler over the Czech lands. Habsburg forces had to be used to rid the lands of this Protestant influence. Habsburg Emperor Ferdinand II sent his troops to lay down the law to the Bohemian noblemen and to the recently crowned Bohemian King Frederick. These events culminated in the Battle of White Mountain just outside the city gates of Prague on a cold and rainy day on November 8, 1620. The Protestant army, totaling around 13,000, faced a much more skilled and numerous Catholic League force of 27,000 strong. The plains of Bila Hora would be stained red with the blood of the estimated 5,000 casualties.
Cannons, some musketeers, some big fight, and I think one of the biggest amazing battles in Czech Republic you can see.
As a reenactor, how can this be dangerous? Because we've seen a lot of, we have horses, we have sword fights. Can this be dangerous if you're not really trained?
Yes, this can be. It's dangerous even for people who are trained, because everything here is not planned. We have one major plan for the battle, but we don't know each guy here, and it's really this is a big battle of really a lot of people here. Anything can happen here, so you have to be cautious every day, and every step you have to look behind you, around you. You have to check your surroundings.
Modern-day reenactors try their best to portray the engagement as historically accurate as possible. The cannons, the muskets, the hand-to-hand combat with sword and pike are very much point on. On that November morning in 1620, a small imperial force was sent to probe the Protestant flank. The Bohemians retreated at the imperial advance, and soon the Bohemian flank began to crumble. The Protestants organized a cavalry charge into the imperial infantry, causing significant casualties. But the Catholic League was just too skilled and thus circled around the Protestant forces, driving them to the middle of the battlefield. With the Bohemian army already demoralized, company after company began retreating, most without even having actually entered the battle. The imperial army took the field and the battle that day, victorious over the Bohemians. The actual Battle of Bila Hora lasted only 1 hour and left the Bohemian army in ruins. It all fell apart so quickly. By the time the Bohemian King Frederick started his way to the battlefield, the Battle of White Mountain had already been decided. With the Bohemian army already destroyed, the Catholic forces entered Prague and the revolt collapsed. King Frederick fled the country with his English wife Elizabeth, thus being named the Winter King for his short winter rule. Just under 50 noblemen were rounded up, imprisoned, and tortured. A year later, in 1621, 27 of these traitor noblemen were executed on the Old Town Square in Prague, hanged, mutilated, or decapitated as a warning to all enemies of the imperial crown of Emperor Ferdinand II. Habsburg rule and Germanic language, as well as Catholicism, would be the driving forces in the Czech lands until the creation of Czechoslovakia following World War I. This historical reenactment brings the past drama to life, offering a needed history lesson to the young and old alike.
One thing that's really held true was that this lasted for about an hour today, and that was pretty much what it lasted for in 1620. It was 1 hour of a skirmish, basically. It's called the Battle of Bila Hora, or the Battle of White Mountain, but it was a very quick, abbreviated battle with the Catholic League winning and the Protestant Czech estate group winding up losing their autonomy for another 300 years. So that's a benchmark in history that we wanted to bring to you today on the Bohemican Podcast. Remember, you can see more of this on our YouTube channel, of course, and on our audio podcast. We also have information on Bila Hora as well on our Bohemican.com website. Until next time, I'm Pete Coleman. Nasledano.